Hello, happy afternoon, Merry almost Christmas. Today we are going to be doing something that I really enjoy. We're going to be making some different recipes. There's a few different levels of difficulty. The first one is really easy and you don't even need an oven to do it. And the other ones can be a bit complicated, so be sure if you're doing them that you have permission to do it and permission to use the ingredients. And maybe have an adult close by if you're not an adult yet, just to make sure that things stay safe. But yeah, Christmas time is a fun time. Often we can get presents, we can have good food, um, spending time with people that we care about and love. This year that looks different. But what we remember in Christmas is Jesus, and that Jesus came and he came to earth so that we could have a good relationship with God and we could have hope and we can have faith in him that he knows what he's doing. And then this week we get to learn about joy. And in all this stuff, when Jesus came, there's a lot of people that had a lot of joy. Now, what is joy? It's kind of like happiness, but like happiness that goes deep down a little bit more. It's not just like laughing at a joke, but it's the kind of thing that it can keep you feeling like things are going to be all right, even when the stuff all around you is difficult. And the only way we can have that is from God. And you can turn to many different things to give you this joy. You can be like, oh, if only I had more time with my family, then I would be joyful. Or if only I had all these good treats, then I would be joyful. Or if only I got all the things on my Christmas list, then I could be joyful. But that's not the way it works. God made us so we could enjoy things, but first we turn to him, and then he fills us, and then he enables us to enjoy all those other things in our life and to be able to serve him. So now, as you make these recipes, if you do make them, then just remember that, and remember as you're eating it that your ability to enjoy the cookies or the caramel corn or the turtle pretzel things, that ability comes from God, and he's given that to you, and he loves you. And if you want to, this is even better. You can share that with other people and share some of the treats with other people, and then they can have joy as well. And, well, they won't get joy from that, but they can enjoy it. So, yeah, just think of that while you make it. Okay, for the first recipe, this is hardly even a recipe, it's so simple. You need a plate, you need Rollos, and you need some pretzels, and you need some nuts. I'm using pecans here, but you can use whatever kind you have. So put some pretzels on a plate. Just lay them out. Then put a Rollo on top of each pretzel. And listen to my dog Willow barking at I don't know what. The Rollos are on the pretzels. Then put it in the microwave for 30 seconds. It doesn't need very long. If you put it in longer, then it'll be a mess. So only for 30 seconds. And there it goes. Now, if once you take them out, it'll feel a little bit softer. The Rollos will feel a bit soft. So take one of your nuts and squish it down on top of each of the soft Rollos. And then it'll make like a cool little crunchy, chocolatey, caramelly, nutty little treat. As I said, this is a very simple recipe. If you thought a bit more ahead than I did, you might put some parchment paper down on the plate because they kind of stuck to the plate a bit afterwards. Then once you're done that, put them in the fridge and let them cool off. So I think I put them in the fridge for maybe 10 minutes or so. And then once they're all cold, then take them out. I used a spoon to help them get off the plate. They were a bit sticky. But then there you go. An easy to make snack that is really tasty and delicious. Okay, for this next recipe, we are going to make caramel corn. So for this, you can use a full bag of popcorn twists. The recipe is actually on the back if you want to follow it otherwise. But I didn't have quite enough, so I'll do a few popcorn twists and then popcorn just from a bag that I popped in the microwave. So the main thing if you use popcorn from a bag is you check through and make sure you have all the unroasted kernels out. I think they've all fallen to the bottom here, so I will have to dump it out gently, and then once there's a bit gone, you can take a look, and underneath there's some of those. Because that would suck if you're munching away on some good caramel corn and then break your tooth on a popcorn kernel. Did I say already? I used 2 bags of popcorn. And then just dump out whatever's left. Then we need this big bowl for mixing it later. So add the popcorn back in. And then we're going to make the caramel part. So this part is tricky and it can get really hot. So make sure you have permission to use whatever you have. And make sure somebody's around that can help. But for this, you use a pretty big pot. It will all fit in a smaller pot than that, but it'll really foam up later. And if the pot is too small, you'll have it all over your entire stove. Take 1 cup of butter. That is, if you have a stick of butter like this, then that is half of it. Or it will say, you can read on there, it says 1 cup. So up until that line is 1 cup. Okay, now I've got the butter in the pot. We'll do 1 cup of brown sugar. But there we go. The oven is supposed to be 250 degrees Fahrenheit. So we'll move it till there. Then we're going to need half a cup of corn syrup. You can see all of my coffee flavorings. Okay, once you've got half a cup of corn syrup, I was running a bit low, but we'll try it like this. Pour that in and start heating it up. So don't go the hottest you can go, but maybe in the middle. We need to melt all these ingredients together. I scraped it out good so there's not much left so we don't waste any. We can make good use of what we've got. Okay, now we've got all the ingredients in the pan, or in the pot, and we will just start melting. Make sure that you stir it enough so that the sugar doesn't get burnt on the bottom. But if we can make sure it doesn't get burnt if we do it at a lower temperature rather than as hot as it can go. Okay, so once it looks like this, and all the butter's melted and it's foaming, then you heat it for 2 minutes. Okay, once the 2 minutes are up, you'll add your last ingredient, and that's why you needed this in a really big pot. You're going to add baking soda, 1 teaspoon of it. Now when we add it, it will get huge and it will grow. You can see how it got much more poofy. There we go. Now we're going to add it to the popcorn. So be careful here too, because this is really hot. I have a scar from hot sugar. And mix it good. Then once it's all nicely mixed, everything is covered over, we'll spread it out on our pan. And we'll put it in the oven and bake it for 45 minutes, but we have to take it out and stir it every 15 minutes. And this is what it should look like when it's all done and cooled off. Okay, so this last recipe will be the most complicated one that we've done so far. But I will walk you guys through it so you can learn how to do it. I don't know if you've ever baked things before, but the recipe calls for half a cup of butter or shortening, and I'm going to try it with margarine. So if you have a stick like this, you can see it says goes from like 1 cup, half a cup, quarter cup, quarter cup. So I want half a cup, so I'm going to cut it right in between with the 2 quarters, which that equals a half. And put that into my bowl. Then this might be a little bit cold still or a bit hard to stir. So I'm going to warm it up for a little bit in the microwave. So like, I think I'm only going to do it for 20 seconds. And then we'll see. Because sometimes margarine and butter get soft really fast. There we go. Now you can see it is pretty soft. It'll get softer as we stir it too. Okay, so the next thing we're going to add is half a cup of peanut butter. If you have measuring cups, it will say a half cup. This is all math. If you have a way to scrape it out to get all that good stuff out, that's helpful. See how clean that is now? I'll still need to wash it, but it's pretty clean. Then mix the peanut butter. The butter, if you have a mixer, you can use that, but for this one, I'll just do it by hand. It might take some time. Okay, it's mostly mixed. I'm going to add the sugar and then it'll keep mixing. So one thing, if you do not have a measuring cup like this, to find a half cup, but if you have a coffee cup, like this size, a normal size with like a small coffee cup, you'd fill that halfway full. See, it's only filled like up till there-ish, so it's about halfway. Or if you have a styrofoam cup, this is still a bit tricky, but I think you should be able to make it work. And it's a bit more complicated because it's not all the way full. It's about like that far down. So if you have one, you can use that for your measurement. Put in that sugar. Next, we'll do the brown sugar. It has double the sugar. So when we put our hand in the scoop, you put it in there and then you feel the top and you push down as hard as you can. It's called packing it. So you push the sugar so that it all becomes a brick. Like that. And then when you dump it in, it kind of holds its shape. Because brown sugar, I guess you need to do that so you make sure you have the right amount. Now we will mix these together good. See, it's starting to get pretty smooth. There's still a few butter chunks in there. You scrape on the sides and scrape on the bottom. Make sure there's no stuff left dry there. Then we'll put in 1 egg. One trick that my mom taught me, if you're wanting to do an egg but you're worried about getting eggshell in it, so who wants to have a crunchy eggshell in their cookie? You first take a bowl and the egg, you open it up and dump it in there. And then let's say that shell fell in, then the shell isn't all the way in the cookie. Then you can just get it out like that. And you can dump it in. And now we will mix some more. There's a lot of mixing involved. Oh, already while we're mixing, if you have vanilla, you can add a bit of that. You see this, let's see if I can get the angle right. It says 1 teaspoon Maybe it's not focusing good, or it's hard with the glare. But if you don't have teaspoons like this, you can also use a small spoon. If you have big spoons that you'd use to eat soup, and then a small spoon for like stirring tea or something, just use the small spoon and fill it up with vanilla. Oops, I did a little bit much. That's okay, a little bit of extra vanilla will just make it taste more vanilla-y, and that's okay. Then mix it again. Now for milk, you need 2 tablespoons. So if this one was the teaspoon, the next size is the tablespoon. So that's the bigger spoon you'd have in your house too. The one that's better for eating soup or stew. You need 2 tablespoons of milk. 1. Oops. Then the last thing we need to add, some flour and a little bit of salt. I just have the big giant bag of flour because I bake stuff a lot, but you need 2 cups. So you see there it says 1 cup, or if you don't have a measuring cup again, you can do one of these. It'll be about the same amount. See, they're kind of close in size. So you add 1 cup. And make sure when you put it in that the top is pretty straight and there's no like if there was a big hole like that on the side, it's not a full cup and it's empty. So we would need to add more. We'll start with that. Then I'll add the salt in now so there's not just a chunk of salt, so it can mix in with the flour. For salt, you need half a teaspoon. So it will say, I don't know if you can see it. It says half teaspoon. Or just fill up one of those other little spoons halfway. It's kind of dangerous if you want to pour over top of there, so if it pours too much, then you would have way too much salt in there. But this much is okay. Sprinkle it in and start mixing. See how I scoop from the bottom and mix it to the top? So that way there's no dry flour left on the bottom. At first it'll look so dry, like how would you ever make a cookie out of this? But then it will start mixing together really well. I think I'm gonna use my hands now. Now it's a good idea to wash your hands first, because if you're touching it, you don't want to give it any of your germs. I'm gonna stir just till all of the stuff that is, all the dry flour is mixed in. It's soft. You see it can kind of hold the shape when I squeeze it. There we go. Only dry flour's on this side there. Underneath, it's all smooth. And now you have an option. You can put them in the fridge for a little while and let the dough cool. That can help make the cookie good. Or you can make them into cookies right away, but I'm going to let mine cool. And I'll put this in the fridge and we'll come back soon. One thing that makes these cookies extra special is that they're kind of like chocolate chip cookies, except instead of having a bunch of little chocolate chips inside, there's like one giant Hershey Kiss on the outside. And they kind of look like a chocolate chip. So while we wait for the cookies to cool, we're going to peel this whole stack. There we go. We need to preheat the oven before we want to bake it at 375 degrees Fahrenheit. So, let's see. Turn it. And then once that light turns off, then the oven will be hot. Okay, so the dough has been in the fridge for a little bit, and the oven is ready to go. So the next thing is to make them into cookies. You can see I put parchment paper in the pans. You don't have to do that, it just helps to keep it from sticking. And make sure you never put normal paper on, because then it might cause a fire or something. So you get a scoop, and you're supposed to make the ball about 1 inch. So we'll try to make them that size. That seems small. But if they're all the same size, then they'll cook pretty much, or at the same time. So some won't be burnt while the other ones are raw. And then you roll it in some sugar and put it on the pan. And I'll push it down just a little bit to help it not to roll all over the place. And make sure they're not right beside each other. If they're there, they might spread out while they bake, and then they'll stick to each other. Okay, so the cookies have just come out of the oven. My oven was still having issues, so the bottom is a bit burnt on some of them. But make sure when you take it out that you use an oven mitt or something to protect your hand, because they are very hot. But now, remember chocolate kisses from before? We will push one on top of each cookie. Like this. Oops, I'm pushing a bit too hard. So be careful, they are still very hot. And there we go. Then we will take them off of the pan and put them onto this rack to help them cool quicker. So those are the recipes for today. I hope you enjoy them. If you do make anything, you can maybe message Midway Bible Camp on Facebook, or write a comment and let us know if you enjoyed it. And let us know which things you find joy in and which things God has given you the strength to enjoy. And yeah, we'll see you the next time.